Welcome back, guys. Allison here. Today I'm going to talk about something a little different than I normally have done on my channel so far. I am actually going to talk about the year that I was living in a van on the road, and that wasn't too long ago, actually. At the age of 62, I basically retired from my job, took Social Security, sold most of my stuff, bought a 2009 Dodge Caravan cargo van, and set out on the road. And it was quite a ride. It was quite an adventure, and I'm going to talk today about what I call the year of the good, the bad, and the ugly. So before I do that, if you enjoy this video today or you get something out of it, please tap the like button and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'm going to do it in that order. I'm going to talk about what was good about it, what was kind of bad about it, and what was really ugly about it. And what I noticed is when I started doing my research into van life, which started back into 2016, there were a lot of van life channels on YouTube, but most of them were really positive. Most of them didn't go into, the things you really need to watch out for, the things that may not work for you or whatever. So it was all very, exciting and, really got me, wanting the adventure and being on the road. I had always loved driving. So I figured, I always loved traveling and I always loved driving. And I figured that part would be, easy for me. So I did my research. I decided not to build out a van, and I basically got a cot and some memory foam to put on top of that, and just did everything without having to do a build. But I spent a lot on supplies at the time. And so I basically took off in May of 2017 and went on this great adventure. And so let me tell you about the good part about it first. So the things that I loved, which I kind of expected to love some of these things, as I pointed out before, I loved traveling and I loved driving. And that was wonderful. I traveled through most of the Western US during that year, basically trying to, go to places that weren't too cold in the winter or too hot in the summer. I saw a lot of places I had not been to before. I enjoyed the long stretches of driving. It, didn't get to me. I liked the solitude as well. I really enjoyed the solitude. I'm an introvert by nature. I like being alone. I like lots of time alone. So for me, that was perfect on the road. The thing that kind of surprised me on the road that I loved, which was kind of interesting, is at night when I would find a place to sleep and kind of hunker down for the night, I'd put the Reflectix up in the window of my van and I'd get in my sleeping bag, and I felt like I was in a little cocoon, and I always felt so, I don't know, it felt very nurturing and warm to me. And I slept great. Like I really had no problem sleeping. And so that was kind of a surprise that I really enjoyed that part of it. So I would say the sense of freedom, the driving, the traveling, being in my little cocoon at night, those were the best things about the adventure. So let me get into what was the bad things. And, I preface this by saying I'm glad to see now, I still follow a bunch of people who have travel or van life channels on YouTube. And I am glad to see more and more people are being really honest about trying it and realizing it didn't work for them. And I realize for some people, van life is great. That suits them to a T, whether it's in an RV or van or whatever. I wish that I were one of those people. I think maybe if I'd been a little younger, well, a lot younger when I started, maybe I would have felt differently about it. I don't know. But let's get into the bad. So some of the bad things were, I would say the bathroom situation, because of course I was in a van, I didn't have a bathroom. And I constantly had to think about, okay, where am I going to be near a bathroom or whatever if I'm in around a city or town or something like that. Now, if I was out in the woods, it wasn't as big of a deal in some ways, but it was hard to adjust. And actually, the actual bathroom, going to the bathroom, was actually worse than the lack of a shower. I kind of thought the lack of a shower was going to bother me more than it did. And over time, I could go several days, using wet wipes and stuff like that without really having a shower, and it really didn't bother me that much. Might have bothered people that I came into contact with more, I don't know. So I would say the bathroom situation was a problem. The other one that was bad was finding a place to sleep every night. That was very stressful. I used the apps that were, on my phone, like, Compendium or campsites.net or iOverlander, things like that. But it was really hard finding a place that I felt really safe at, that I thought I wouldn't get the dreaded knock on the window, which I did end up getting a couple of times during the year. But it was stressful because being a woman alone, especially an older woman alone, I felt very aware of protecting my safety at all times. So again, if I had been a man or I'd been younger, maybe it wouldn't have bothered me as much. I do follow some van lifers on YouTube who, for them it's not stressful at all. They talk about it on their channel, and but these guys, they're men, so a whole different situation in my opinion. So that was difficult, and that was hard. The other thing was cooking on the road. I'm not a person who loves to cook anyway, and I found that cooking and setting up a stove and doing all that was just, I don't know, it just never felt comfortable to me. So I ate out way too many times on the road. I ended up getting, going in and get a sandwich. And fortunately, I'm a person that likes to just eat one main meal a day and then just have, like graze for the other couple of times during the day. So it wasn't too bad, but I really felt like I wasn't getting great nutrition or anything like that. So that was kind of a bad thing as well. I would say that there was nothing really horrible that did happen to me in the year. In other words, I never was attacked. I never had my van broken into. I didn't ever feel like I was in a really dangerous situation. I also, very fortunately, never got really sick that year. In fact, I don't even think I got a cold that year. Of course, this was in viral days. But so I was lucky. But now looking back on it, I see now if I'd really gotten sick, that would have been horrible living in a van. So let's get to the ugly part. The ugly part that it didn't hit me until I was already on the road. And that is that apparently I didn't do well being homeless. And even when you live in a vehicle, you're homeless if you don't have a home to go back to. And because I don't really have family that I could go stay with for any length of time, I had no respite from this, except for, getting a hotel room from time to time and having, like a night or two type of thing there. It was very difficult. It really bothered me. It really ate away at me over the year to be homeless and living in my van. And I didn't think ahead of time that would bother me as much as it did. But that was the really ugly part. That was the hardest thing to deal with. And when I finally did, after a year, I did get a place to live. I was so ecstatic when I got my apartment. And I remember just the first 3 months I lived in the apartment here that I just was so happy to have a roof over my head. I mean, that's how starved I was for that. So, is there a lesson in this for the rest of you who've thought about maybe going out and doing van life? Well, I would say everybody has to choose for themselves, and everybody has to decide for themselves what's going to work for them or not. For me, I don't think I really, dug deep in my psyche to figure out what would really bother me or not bother me as much. So I think you have to be brutally honest with yourself. Would you be okay being homeless? Or is it okay to do it because maybe you have family members you could stay with for a couple of weeks at a time? Maybe that would work for you. So I think you really have, would it really bother you to not have a bathroom? Is it really going to bother you to find a safe place to sleep every night? Those are questions you really have to ask yourself before you take the plunge like I did. Do I regret doing this? No. It was an adventure. I'm glad I could do it at that age, 62, 63, rather than waiting till I was even older to do it. I would say now that I live in a stable situation, if I ever wanted to travel again, I don't have that van anymore, and I don't have a vehicle I can really do any, amount of traveling in right now. But if I'm ever in that situation again and I feel like I can get a vehicle that I would like to go on road trips, I would certainly do it. But I would do it having a home base. I would do it having my place here, having an apartment to live in, and then go off for a couple weeks at a time and go on an adventure. That's how I would do it, because I know that I can do the 2 weeks. What was hard was doing the week after week after week after week. So that's my van life adventure. It was definitely an adventure, and it was definitely eye-opening, and I definitely learned from the experience, and I learned what I was really enjoyed doing and also what I did not enjoy doing. I do know that for me, it is really important to have that home base. So I hope this doesn't dissuade you from doing van life. If you've ever thought about doing it, find a way to make it work into your lifestyle. If you're like me, figure out a way to have a home base, whether it's your place or a family member's or whatever, and maybe with that little security, it would be a lot easier for you to do. So anyway, that was my adventure, and so until next time, be well, keep moving forward, keep doing adventures if you can, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Take care.